Big death reaction. And I think that, I don't know, man. I don't know how much longer I can put up with this death reaction. I just feel like, when's it gonna stop? Enough's enough. And I know they only live for like, what is it, a couple weeks? Like a month, maybe.
Yeah, it's like, I guess August will probably be when it ends, right?
Something like that. I hope. I see them everywhere. You know, we talked, like last week, we talked about how people are eating these things, and it's like, what the fuck? Really? Is that where we're at? But I'm past that. I'm at the point of like this death ray noise. I can't hear anything. Like there are no birds. I mean, I guess it kind of knocks out the traffic noise, which doesn't really exist. But it overwhelms like the sound of leaves rustling in the wind, even. And it's loud enough to keep up with a window unit air conditioner. I think that's crazy.
It's like, I think it's, what is it, on par with jet engines or something. I want to say they did a recording on campus one year, or decibel meter measurement, and it was like 110 or something.
Oh, good.
118. Gravy. Yeah. Like at the peak of the day.
You know, I have a decibel meter. I should go do that later today, just to see. I'm curious now because it's so loud. I've got a lot of trees. Granted, I've got my entire home is surrounded by trees. I also live next to a road, but I've got a lot of trees, and they're all sufficiently sized that cicadas can get all over them. And I'm not really complaining. I understand they help aerate the soil. They restore nutrients. They provide a huge surplus infusion of nutrients into the ecosystem, into the food resource cycle, the carbon cycle. I get it. That stuff's all good. Mucho gusto. But they just scream so fucking loud. I guess it's a small price to pay, right? This only happens every 17 years, and it really only happens every like 100 and something years because we've got brood X and brood Y.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. We've got like the eventuality of the overlap of the two. And so I guess this is one of those like rare events. We're here for a rare event, just like all those really rare eclipses that seem to happen more and more frequently, and supermoons.
Yeah. But I guess what is this, like my second, I guess. Yeah, it's my third cicada.
17 years
emergence.
ago, and then 34 years ago. Yeah.
But
well, there's one now, there's 117, and then there's 134 years ago. So yeah, this is the third. This will be the third within our lifetimes.
Yeah. So it's pretty interesting to see, like you get used to them, I guess, on the third time, or it feels like, because
I don't remember them being this loud.
I feel like they were louder last time for some reason, but maybe that's just my imagination. I guess I haven't been on campus. They might still be as loud on campus.
That's a good point. I'm not surrounded by a bunch of buildings. I'm just surrounded by like bugs and trees. It could possibly be even louder than I'm experiencing.
Yeah, because I think with all the limestone, it reverberates
Yeah,
and echoes even more. So it's just like the echo chamber for the cicada noise. So
yeah, it just amplifies itself.
right by sample gates, it's like one of the loudest points. But
For a second there, I started to think like the founders of IU decided to build the shape of the main campus such that it would amplify the sound of cicadas through the sample gates and cleanse Kirkwood. Like the whole set of buildings is designed to help amplify cicadas. I realize that's not possible, but I used to think that big red sculpture, the donut looking thing, I used to imagine that would only during tornado strength wind would start to howl. I've always had my fingers crossed, like in hopes that would happen. Like, come on, just start howling. But I imagine that it would also require like 200-mile-an-hour winds, 300-mile-an-hour winds, maybe faster, maybe like 1,000-mile-an-hour winds. Stuff that would just wipe the face of campus clean. Oh, so I was watching this space documentary about like trans-Neptunian objects and Kuiper Belt objects, and as soon as it ended, it went straight into this like black hole documentary, and it occurred to me, if our solar system was circling a small black hole, or if our galaxy itself was trapped in a black hole, that would affect all of our physics entirely, because our measurements would be taken from within this place. And what if it were possible if when we're not trapped in a black hole, at that point, the expanse of space-time itself isn't stretched so far that light speed travel is actually possible? Like, what if all of our physics is kind of skewed because of something as simple as being trapped in a black hole? Because would we even know if we were in one?
technically, we can't know because we're not in one, as far as we know. But we would know in that our physics would have been defined by that existence anyway. So it's like, yeah, theoretically, our universe could be what's inside a black hole, but because we can't reach the edge, we would never know.
Yeah.
But our universe's physics are already designed by it. So in that means if we're in a black hole, that means black holes, right? Because black holes exist within black holes. So that existence doesn't necessarily mean anything in the grand scheme unless there is a way to go between black holes with meaning and intention, and then that would kind of be more in line with like what we, I think, associate with reincarnation, in the sense of that type of movement between those types of masses would take so much energy with a physical body that I don't think a physical body would be the means by which we would achieve it. In that, I think what we have defined life based on an amalgamation of physical cells, in that information to be living would not necessarily have to take on that form, but because we have limited our perspective of life, information itself would not necessarily qualify as a living entity, even though, in fact, it is very possible that information is living. And this is kind of where information and being able to be made into ones and zeros, and also by proxy electricity, has the capacity to go at the speed of light and potentially beyond in ways that a physical body is limited and is not able to easily achieve those speeds. So that's kind of where, that's the reason we transmit information between satellites and not not try to pass a note or use like the hard line. Like imagine a satellite in orbit being hard line down to Earth instead of being transmitted.
Wow. Everything's attached by some kind of weird space elevator.
Right. I mean, but in that, the space elevator would also be the information channel. So and that's kind of where
I'm imagining an Earth that's wearing a kind of a bit gigantic belt around the equator, and you know those carnival swing rides where there's like two or three rows of concentric rings of swings, and when it spins, they all kind of centrifugal force their way out. I'm imagining something like that.
That's exactly effectively what our satellite network is, except it's wireless.
Yeah, and it relies on Lagrangian points to have a consistent falling altitude so that it falls around the Earth.
Yeah, Lagrangian points are utilized to keep things at a static point. So it's like, if we're ever going to build ships in orbit, it would be at a Lagrangian point. And that's kind of where there are all these means of using natural forces to accelerate the way our technology works. But at the same time, we are then also limiting ourselves based on our perspectives through physical bodies. And it's very difficult to get out of the discussion of the physical body without getting into mystical talk and esoteric bullshit. So then that's where it's like really hard to, it's funny to me the way that the singularity just became like it's like geek heaven and geek God.
Oh yeah.
There's no real science to the singularity. It's 100% just like,
oh no, that's a mechanism for storytelling at best.
Basically, yeah.
I mean, I think what's his name? James Cameron called it Skynet. Look like Skynet did. The last iteration of Skynet turned out to be a smartphone that was going to take over. Like, how much weirder does that get? I think that's actually the brilliance of a time travel story. I think at some point that's a computer system that becomes sentient.
But it's like it's so detached from actual way things work, and that's kind of where.
Well, no, I think that's why the phone was funny to me. I can't take Terminator that seriously because it's
right, yeah.
But
it's not meant to be.
But in Genesis, when they were like, it's like the new 2017 or 14 or whatever year it was, smartphone, connect your life to this, and it's like, wait. How many times have they done this now? Now they're building cell phones? What the hell? Skynet's like Apple now? Or Google? This is too much. But it makes it makes for a good mechanism. So I think that's what these things really end up becoming. And somehow they get in the hands of, I don't know, people with an audience. and then next thing you know,
Well, and I think part of the problem is like the people telling the stories have no business telling these stories. Like James Cameron has no business telling a story about what the potential for AI is going to be. Sorry, he has no business telling that story. He just doesn't. He doesn't know enough about AI or machine learning. I don't care who the fuck he talks to. He's too busy to have enough time to devote to learn. Like it takes
I mean, he's
decades,
like,
decades of dedicated work to actually be able to understand where that stuff is going.
yeah.
And he don't have time because he's working on movies.
Well, I
That's
think he
fine.
spent a lot of the time that he would have been learning about AI, developing the skills to operate submarines. That was his. I think that was his real thing. I think he's like,
Yeah.
I think he's contributed like as much to submarine like exploration as anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure he's the
No,
reason
that's
they found the
true.
Titanic too, or something dumb like that, or were able to get to it. He's crazy. He tells a good story. I enjoy his visualization of the future. I like the way that he, like, his version of Alien also works well too. And both of those kind of themes bleed into his Avatar movie. He's got one like future universe look, and I guess and he used it multiple times.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. It's okay. It's good for science fiction movies for that kind of style.
Mm-hmm.
Lately, I think we're getting a lot. We're at this point with CGI where we're able to see really stunning visualizations of technology or the future even, and it's. I mean, we see it on like Netflix all the time, or Hulu, or whatever streaming service anyone uses. You can see these things like all the time, and I'm just impressed. I'm super impressed by a lot of the stuff that's been released lately.
Yeah. It's people are better and the technology is better in tandem is both of those things at the same time.
Yeah,
So I do think we are in like a golden age of visual creation for live action media. Um, and then further, I think what it does is it, because it's so easy to have really good visuals now, then it forces people to have to up the writing game so that there
and
is actual better story around those visuals and the choreography. Like Daredevil worked because of the writing, and the choreography was just a bonus. Like the choreography wasn't the star of the show, the writing was the star and the acting was the star. So I think there is this element of the tools and the quality of the visuals becoming better. It like it, there's still more crap, but we end up with still more, um like the average level is, the bar is way higher
oh yeah, even
than,
the crap looks better. Like the
yeah.
crap's being captured in like 4K and then being processed into 1080p, where it looks. I mean, it looks fantastic. These people have obviously figured out how to make stuff look good. And
Okay, so did you ever see the live action Fist of the North Star?
I think I tried to watch it one time. I don't remember watching the whole thing.
Yeah. So just to put it into perspective, they had like a $6.5 million budget, which is not a lot then and not a lot now for making a movie. So that's kind of where, for what they had to work with, they actually did really well. Um, but now, if you had a $6.5 million budget for a film, it would be way better visually than what they could do, just because the barriers of entry are way lower. And that's kind of where you can do a lot more now visually with 6.5 million than you could then. But it's 6.5 million is still not a ton of money for making a movie today. So it's like,
Yeah,
even
I
though
have
it's not
seen
a ton of
this.
money,
Malcolm McDowell. I remember thinking like,
yeah.
whoa.
So that's where it's like, you know, the movie for what it is with the budget they had is not as bad as it could have been.
I think something more contemporary would be Mortal Kombat.
Right. Yeah. If you go back, oh well, in the sequels is where it gets really bad, because their budgets got smaller, and they tried to.
The sequel Mortal Kombat movies felt like USA movies.
Yeah, they really did.
And
I went back and watched one recently, or a couple of them, but
but no, the new one, it's got like premium, like prime time, blockbuster grade visual effects.
yeah, it really does. Anybody says otherwise is just bullshitting.
Maybe they only have like a 720p screen.
Well, and then I guess what they also did is they didn't do all CGI. So like a lot of the stuff with Sub Zero in the cage fight freezing scene, they use like ice cannons.
Huh.
So yeah, this is where
They blended practical effects.
Exactly, and I think this is one of those things that the best outcomes end up doing, where you blend stuff in the actual physical scene and CGI. So that's kind of, you know, I I hate it when people look at Mortal Kombat or some movie that's made with that type of intention and they're like, well, philosophically, they didn't explore all the things that I wish they did.
Philosophically, Mortal Kombat is about like fatalities and
Right.
killing some like universe-ending motherfuckers who are just coming there to kill you, so you better kill them. It's like it's pretty cut and dry. Philosophically, you either want to live or you are willing to be killed by somebody.
It's a movie based on a video game that was based on another movie.
It was based on a video game.
Right. Yeah. So.
And that game was hard. I remember when that game came out, and it was like it would just eat quarters if you didn't spend time to actually learn how to play. Oh man, that game was so tough. You had to be deliberate too. It wasn't like a button masher.
Mm-hmm. No, not at all. And I think that's where it was one of the. It was like that Killer Instincts.
What was it? The one with the animals? It was like Primal something. Primal Rage.
Yeah, and there was a few where you had to actually learn the moves to be good at the arcade. Like with Street Fighter, you didn't have to learn a ton of moves, but it wasn't necessarily a button masher.
Well, once you got to the Street Fighter Hyper and like the Super Street Fighter stuff, where they started giving you super moves, then you could really just mash the crap out of like the low kick or the low punch, and it would just fling that thing out real fast. But that wasn't very good if you were dealing with somebody who actually knew what they were doing too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think the thing about Street Fighter is a lot of the combos and the moves, they all kind of translate with different characters.
Right.
There's a lot more.
There's like a few sequences, and you just have to figure out which sequences that character uses.
Yeah, but it was like a much more homogenized control methodology.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if you played Mortal Kombat 11, but it's a lot of fun. I hadn't played any of the series for a while. And then when the movie came out, I was like, okay, I used to have a lot of fun. I'm sure I'll still have fun, obviously, playing Mortal Kombat. I just hadn't really been into that type of game for a long time. But 11 is a lot of fun because they took all the things about Mortal Kombat and made them better. So for example, like there's like easy fatalities now if you don't necessarily want to learn button press sequence, but it like costs you. You have to have a certain energy, so you can't just do an easy fatality every time. You have to have built up enough energy to pull it off. So it's like the way they do it, it's like really intelligently executed. So that's
Well,
kind of where I'm like,
well, that makes sense because in like Marvel versus Capcom series where they start to blend all of the anime game characters into Street Fighter universe and the Marvel characters too. Like, there's a certain power level range you have to get to before you can unleash like the really serious business attacks. And I always appreciated there's a similar mechanism within Killer Instinct, but I always appreciated how with Killer Instinct, if you could enter the combination manually, you would do a manual combo, and you could get to the same place without having to do all of the like the charging.
oh yeah, that's another thing about
There
Mortal
should be
Kombat
there should be a
is
reward for being able to enter the combination manually.
yeah, that is one of the things they do really well is if you're entering the button presses accurately, the animations are really smooth and there's no break between the animations. So they reward you with that, but otherwise if you don't go smoothly, there's like a break between animations where the opponent can exploit it and like attack you because that's kind of where what the way these video games or these fighting games specifically have kind of moved towards is if you learn the right moves, you can keep it going so there's no break within the animation. So you may get a person that has a combo that if you learn it, they don't if you start the combo, there's no break for the entire round and then that person's dead. But you have to enter all the buttons correctly or then they if you try that combo and you miss a button press, then they might make your animation vulnerable in the middle so that it's like the risk that you take you get a reward but you also get punished if you don't get it correct. So that's kind of where again the way that
It's going to be really interesting when VR really takes off, and it sounds like I got some kind of safety utility emergency vehicle driving by. It'll be. I'm curious to see what happens when Street Fighter VR happens. Like, I'm sure there will be controllerists, but I'm sure that there will also be people who will have like the full like haptic suit, gloves, and like a omnidirectional surface, or maybe some kind of suspension system.
I think they have one. That's where oh let me see.
Because I've seen the hamster ball thing, but I'm not sure how that actually can work unless you've got like a full wireless setup. And I imagine that has a big ass battery and is not light or easy to do the. Like at some point, because I know that some of the headsets are like basically self-contained, and so they can communicate wirelessly with the mixed reality portal or with the whichever VR platform you're on, like Steam or whatever. Like at some point it has to be small enough so that like agility can become a factor in gameplay, like real serious like athletic agility.
This is a 6x6 platform or like a play area, and it tracks you so you can use your legs as well.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's called Virtual Fighting Championship. It was supposed to have released July 13th of 2019. I know I've played a few like boxing games that obviously it's boxing, so there's no legs, but yeah, looking at these people doing the virtual fighting championship, like aside from the fact that I don't think there's like grappling or anything, it looks pretty involved. Like these people are really moving
Like
around,
really,
and
they're throwing their arms around pretty.
yeah, so that's kind of where um, I do think this may not be obviously if they released it in 2018 actually, there's probably something else uh, that's more up to date with better technology. Let's see, Knockout City,
Knockout City.
dodgeball.
I think that
But yeah,
this could be interesting because I'd like to see like avatars fighting each avatars. I think that'd be pretty cool. Like this, it'd be like you could have like VR championships where we see a pair of like a Kong versus Godzilla style fight.
you know what? I know they have Mortal Kombat first person, so I wonder if they have it in VR, which is where it's really weird fighting in first person.
Huh. Mortal Kombat VR,
like Mortal
Oculus.
Kombat VR. Yeah.
Well, what do you know? This is the kind of thing that just. I mean, obviously, I'm not paying close attention to Mortal Kombat video gaming series, but this makes me really, really kind of happy. Actually, that at the moment that I think it's like, oh man, I wonder what's going on with this. I'm kind of interested in this. Lo and behold, it's already here. The future is now. I wonder how many other things that I might be interested in already exist.
Well, I think the fact that they made a first person, um, like a first person approachable way to play made it much easier for them to port it to VR. Because I never would have thought to play Mortal Kombat first person. Um, but it's weird. I've tried it, and yeah, I definitely prefer the side view on that.
I think there's something to be said for a side perspective fighting game. I think that's the format. When we see boxing, we don't see it in first person. We see it from the side, maybe sometimes
Right.
from above, but that also looks really weird. And the same thing with MMA. We see people from the side from multiple camera angles, but that's the way that we've always seen it. Even the cinematic stuff where they get the over the shoulder view for the instant replay. I don't think that anyone could fight in a video game like that. It would be like trying to play GTA in cinematic mode all the time without knowing where the camera angle was going to be. So like one moment you're pushing the control pad or the joystick to the right, and then it changes cameras and you need it to be going up, but you're still going right. That would make for some really drunken style of gameplay, actually. Or maybe like video game vertigo. No, that's probably a real thing already. In fact, I know it is. Because I remember.
Oh yeah,
I remember when
yeah.
you put the VR headset on me, and I just played Tetris. Just getting out of the chair after that was an experience. So
Yeah, even Tetris will do it at first. You don't even have to be flying or anything crazy.
yeah,
I definitely would get it. You know, I think when I first was using it, it would happen after about a half an hour, and then it maybe took, I want to say, about a month before I could go longer than a half an hour at a time. And then part of it, you realize like you don't want that thing on your face for more than a half an hour because it starts weighing on your head. That's where there's a lot of things about VR headsets that need to be improved, including the weight, which I've seen some of them improving. But yeah, the vertigo. I didn't. Of all things, I never thought that I would ever get vertigo from video games. But when you play VR, you know, I think everybody's any the small 1% that would not get vertigo are probably like fighter pilots or some shit. So everybody's gonna get vertigo no matter how long you played video games, unless you're like a fighter pilot. And even then, they might get vertigo from the right game. But it tricks your senses so bad.
I think the only ones who don't get vertigo are the F-35 pilots, the ones who see like an
Probably.
entire like have like 360 view because they're wearing a headset that is just screens.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the candidate. That's the those are the pilots. Those are the ones who get to fly the planes that don't have a glass cockpit. You know, I wonder like how close we actually are to like. I mean, I know that there are people who can design planes using materials that have unbelievably small, like bird-sized radar cross sections, and so I wonder how close we actually are to not just like radio or radar cloaking, but actual like optic cloaking technology, and if it's like even realistic to put that into a vehicle. And because I try to think of like, you know, the electrical requirements and then the fragility of something like that. I don't know. Just a lot of the things that are proposed that would answer for like or explain, you know, all the UFO madness. It's like this stuff's really expensive too.
Mm-hmm.
All of this stuff is unbelievably expensive. It's so much. I mean, it's a lot more plausible, of course, that it's just like like a bird or an airplane or something else.
Why is the U.S. government trying so hard to convince Americans that the UFO things are real, but at the same time being like, well, we don't actually know if we don't think they're extraterrestrial, but we don't know. This is like the weirdest like push on this, because that's where I'm like, what are they doing? What's the end goal here?
Well, a few months ago, or maybe a month or yeah, maybe a couple months ago, I think I read something about some U.S. contractor that was working on the EM drive, the impulse engine, saying that it wasn't going to work, that the experiment had failed. But then someone in China is like, no, it works. Like they're like, our microwave drive works.
That's funny.
And so is it like all the technology is good, it's just they don't want anyone in America developing it. They want us to think that it doesn't work. China's going to have flying cars in 20 years, meanwhile like our guys can't figure out how to make it work. What the fuck, really? I
I
don't think.
wouldn't be surprised if China had figured it out, and then our government and by proxy the private industry is like, yeah, we could It doesn't work. If we can't do it, no one can.
Meanwhile, China's levitating trains start approaching speeds of like 1,000 kilometers an hour, 1,200 kilometers an hour, something dumb, 1,500 kilometers an hour. Like, holy shit, speeds.
There's like aren't they planning? Oh, there's like a. I thought there was like a plan for a train or some sort of railway between, or some sort of roadway between Africa and China or Russia or
Oh
something.
yeah, no, that's part of the Belt Road Initiative.
Yeah,
That's
I didn't
part of
think I
that.
was making that up.
Yeah, no, that's they're
Yeah.
building
There we go. Yep.
they're building like like a network of high speed maglev train railways. They're weird looking because they basically look like a cement block that extends, hundreds of miles. And then they can like float above this thing like almost 400 miles an hour at top speed. Like that's insane. And they can do that and move just incredibly
Oh my god.
large loads of everything. They're going to build something that's like going to be, I think it's going to be like several maglev widths wide.
Jeez.
They're building a complete network. It's beautiful. It's like the kind of thing that's like, why can't we have stuff like this?
Right. Well, it's what old Jim Crow Joe is trying to do somewhat, but not with that, not with maglev, unfortunately.
Oh, he's got a boner for electric vehicles. I think the whatchamacallit, Hyperloop is kind of like maglev train, but it's inside of
No,
a
it's
tube.
not, dude. It's not. It's not at all. And what's funny is that's
There
what they
isn't?
promise, but it's basically just like
Is it the mail tubes
ton-
from like the 20s?
not even. It's just basically like an underground tunnel for cars to drive through in the way that they executed it. It was not even remotely close to what they promised.
Oh, that's so terrible.
The
That just sucks.
Hyperloop is so far from what they promised.
So it's like a roller coaster then inside of a tube.
Not even. It's just basically a tunnel.
It's just a tunnel.
Yeah, the what they said it was going to be versus what it ended up being. It's a tunnel, man. And like
Man. I mean, Japan's got maglev, China's got maglev. There's maglev all over it. It's like not China, South Korea. Why can't we have cool trains? Is it really that hard? Is it like Amtrak is so unwilling to invest in new technology?
I mean, I think the issue is
that's some like ultimate level, like if it ain't broke, don't fix it crap.
the way that they are meant to work. It's just hard to build really long connections without the connections shifting. So that's kind of where I think it's just meant to be like small station to station, but everyone's trying to do like, let's do a 300-mile loop when that's the physics just don't seem like they're going to work out for that at any point without it just becoming like a constant struggle to keep it from shifting.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, if we have little 5-mile stations.
So it's really an issue of geological stability.
Right.
Well, if that's the case, then
It's not even-
underground
it's
tunnel
not the
system is not even going to work either.
Well, it's not about geological stability. It's the fact that when something goes through, it shifts the pod or the tube because of the heat. So you have to basically have the tube compensating for its own expansion and refraction, like that it's going to happen because something's passing through it at that speed. But then because of the materials being such a thing under pressure, there's also the compression. So there's all these different forces that aren't even just the geological forces, which is why it makes it difficult to keep the tubes straight. It's like, yeah, that's the biggest problem is just keeping the tube straight because of all of the different variables affecting the integrity of the tube at any given moment. And that's kind of where, again, that is not the fact, is not building the tube, it's not getting the tube underground. It's keeping the tube straight so that something doesn't go off out of line when it's coming through and cause a like horrific destruction, like from a crash or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's also where the one that they were trying, that Elon was trying to do, just ended up turning into a tunnel because they couldn't get it working under the original conditions without the expansion and refraction causing too many problems. It's like that car or tube or whatever it goes through, coming through at such high speed and pressure, it just causes such dramatic stresses on the tube.
Oh, so this is interesting. So I've been reading about hunting, like about how to get deer properly, And there's this thing that I keep reading about is this muzzle velocity and then pressure, like chamber pressure, and it turns out that like rifles can only withstand so much pressure. It's like 60 to 65,000 psi or something like that. Well, most of them, and after that they start to blow apart, and that's the reason you can't put a gigantic bullet in a small rifle, because it'll just rip it to pieces. Or that's why you can't use the wrong cartridge, basically, because it'll damage it and blow it up. And this is kind of that's you just reminded me of that. It's like they're using a projectile that's too big, and it's the pressure that it creates, the pressure imbalance that it creates, is such that it's damaging the or it's causing the integrity of the tube itself to fail. So I wonder how many times they can get their automated or auto drive Tesla car management system to, how many times can they send it through before it breaks? I think that
I'm trying to tell you, it doesn't go that fast. They send it through at like 15 miles an hour.
Oh, that's it? That's not even a train.
Or like 30 miles an hour.
That's not even
like,
a train. You can drive better.
I mean, what I'm saying is the tubes go too fast. Like the cars that go through the tubes in the way that they are like being sold as a design end up having too much structural shift over time, to the point as when it got implemented, the Teslas end up driving through it like 30 miles an hour. So they're not even going through fast. Like it's one of these things that, again, the way that it's been sold as an intention for design is not as simple as
they made it out to be.
The bank tubes, because the bank tubes are short. If the bank tubes were going between like somebody's home and downtown, it would break down because of the fucking pressure needed to get something going that far eventually.
Yeah. So this is funny. Like there is decades of research that has gone into like bullet trains and maglev trains in Japan and in China. And sure, some people have died, but they've also made some really astonishing breakthroughs in how to make these things fly on the ground, essentially. And we don't have to reinvent the wheel. They could bring this technology here, right? Somebody could they can retrofit existing railway structures to accommodate the maglev system, and then next thing you know, we have high speed rail in America. It couldn't possibly take that long, right? Or is it just a money thing? Like they'd have to spend a lot of money, and it would take them half a lifetime to get the money back. Meanwhile, the rest of
It would take 20, at least 20 years to get a maglev system deployed in America. Like not between cities, like between two cities, it would take probably 5 to 7 years to get one deployed.
for like a national.
But a national one between 20 and 50 years,
Yeah.
realistically.
Yeah.
Like think about how long 465 or 37 and 67 have been under construction. America perpetually has problems completing construction. And then I don't know if you saw that article that
Oh, about the Chinese EM drive.
well, it's ion propulsion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's kind of where
T and he. Launched late in April.
ion propulsion is weird in that it's like it's it's almost like light travel, but you're not going at the speed of light.
It's impulse engine. It's an impulse engine.
Right, but it can, if you let it go in the vacuum of space over time, over a long period of time, it could build up.
Yeah, just
An
accelerates.
extreme amount of speed. Yeah, it just keeps accelerating.
They would have to figure out the optimal location to reverse thrust or to reverse ionic charge of their ship, and then to slow down so they don't go flying and hit Mars or miss their orbital window. Because I get the impression this thing is just to get to Mars, not to land.
Yeah, I don't think it would. I don't think it would ever land.
Oh yeah, cut down the trip from 8 months to 39 days.
Yeah, I don't think this is something that's meant to ever land.
Yeah, this is definitely.
There's some vehicles that are meant to perpetually be in orbit, and I think this is one of those. Or not necessarily even in orbit, but in movement and not on the ground somewhere.
Yeah, assembled in space kind of thing.
Yeah. Because then they'll have modules or vehicles within those that can be deployed, like a rover or something that has enough power to get it between the planet or wherever it needs to go, but it's small enough that it can get through the gravity of a planet.
So recently, China's fusion reactor test was successful, and they ran it at like 100 million degrees or 120 million degrees for like 100 seconds or something like that, and got it up to like 160 million for 20 seconds. And our sun only burns at 16 million degrees centigrade. So it's like they were at one point hit 10 times the temperature of the sun, but for the most part they were running at 7 times the temperature of the sun, and it was stable, or so they say. So they need fuel for this, and our moon is rich in helium-3, which would provide a suitable fuel for a fusion reaction, and which could get their ship to Mars, where they could source the materials to build a much larger ship to contain all the resources they need to get to. I don't even know where the next spot is in the solar system people are trying to get to. Is it one of Jupiter's moons, or is it one of Saturn's moons? I don't know. It's got to be one of the ones that has water on it, right?
I think Saturn, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, like Enceladus or something, probably. I wonder what's going to happen to the moon and Mars on the way to Saturn. What happens when we get there and it turns out that there have been humans living there for 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 years already, and they've been like, "What took you guys so long? We've been waiting for you."
Well, I guess I'm of the mind. Like, okay, there's a few things where because of the gravity on the moon being 1/6 gravity, it would be a prime location for launching extrasolar missions or missions out of our solar system, because the like
Well, the it has a 30-day rotation, so it's and so you can fling things off of it pretty regularly. Also, because it's tightly locked, it has like one face that if you install a launch pad, you just wait for that time of the month or whatever for it to swing around, so you can launch your ship off of it,
right,
and take advantage of the centrifugal force of the moon, or the interaction with the moon and the Earth.
Yeah. So there's all these things about. Obviously, it would take a lot of. It would be a heavy lift to locate enough material to the moon to start launching missions from there. But that's also why it wouldn't be something that a single country could do.
Yeah.
And we'd have to finally get our shit together.
Yeah, it would have to be like a United Nations moon installation.
Yeah.
Well, good thing the moon is hollow and made of cheese, so they'll have no problems grinding away a moon base inside of the moon, so they don't have to live in. No country can lay claim to the moon, anyways.
Well, no country would be okay with another country having a base on the moon.
Yeah, they'd all have to be present.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons, like, it won't be unilateral from a single country, just because I think would cause a war.
We've already got a template for this. It's Stargate and the IOA.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be I wonder how they're going to tax moon research and mining, because that's really why they're going back, is for mining and a little research.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the only reason to go back, really, because it's like, I don't know what research they could do that they haven't done already, you know?
Yeah.
And knowing that there's like a helium shortage on our planet now because we've like
had too many parties.
Right. Too many fucking balloons.
And in less than 100 years, we've had too many balloons. It's so sad. We've utilized like a lifetime worth of helium in less than 100 years on party balloons.
Right. Leave it to us to just frivolously waste an element, an entire element.
Like not just an entire element, but like a really critical like fission reaction element. Like we need this. We need it. We need it so we can break it into hydrogen, and so we can put it back together again, and then rip it apart continuously and generate a lot of power from it. We need that stuff. Can't just be making our voices high pitched and sending balloons into the sky.
Oh god. Yeah.
That shit makes me sad now.
Live and learn. Live and learn.
So, imagine how much it's going to cost to get a moon helium balloon, because you know that's going to happen.
Right.
Like this helium.
Somebody's going to have it at a party.
Yeah. It makes your voice like even higher pitched, like an extra 2 octaves higher or something dumb. No, there are a bunch of elements that are desirable on the moon, and hopefully we can find all of the materials we need for Elon's batteries, like, you know, on the between the moon and Mars. Maybe they can start manufacturing Teslas on Mars. The batteries will be charged by the ambient radiation, and since they'll weigh less on Mars, it'll be easier to get them back to Earth. You can use a hyperloop. Oh man, that's just so disappointing. Like I watched a freaking documentary about the hyperloop the other day, and I thought, it's like, oh, this is their test thing. It's like a lot smaller than I expected it to be, and they were really excited because they got it to go like 100 kilometers an hour in a straight line.
Right. Right.
And I thought, it's like, yeah, that's only like 62 miles an hour or 63 miles an hour or something. I think that's really not that impressive. Maybe it's like 70. I don't know. But they were so happy. He's like, yeah, we just broke this speed milestone. Let's pat ourselves in the back. And I thought, well, okay, cool. That's good. That tube's way smaller than I thought it was going to be. I thought this thing was going to be big enough to hold a fucking train, and this thing looks like it's barely big enough to hold a Mini. Definitely couldn't hold any of their cars, but maybe I'm missing something.
So the Elon, I think the Virgin one is doing way better, but Elon's got it to a blistering speed of 40 miles per hour.
Oh, maybe I was watching somebody else's Hyperloop success story, because they were definitely excited. Hold on, I gotta find it.
Here's the oh my god, it's so absurd. Yeah, this one.
Yeah, it was the Virgin Hyperloop that I watched.
I think the Virgin one is doing way better. But Elon's is basically just a glorified train.
Yeah, I watched the Virgin Hyperloop test video. Yeah.
Go figure.
Holy crap, these things don't even look alike.
Not at all. Not at all. And what's funny is the way Elon talks about it, they're supposed to. The one Elon pitched to people is supposed to look like the way the Virgin one is turning out, but it was way more difficult than he thought it was going to be, and way more difficult than he presented it to be. And he just doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, is what it comes down to. He's pretending to be smarter than he is, and there aren't enough people.
Man, the Huawei Hyperloop looks awesome. Whoa. Okay, so Huawei's Hyperloop system looks more like a traditional maglev train. but it also looks really cool. It looks like it belongs in like some, like a cyberpunk anime. The Huawei, the Huawei Hyperloop system looks amazing.
Yeah. Everything about Elon's fucking funnel underperforms.
That's like such a letdown. I had higher hopes. I thought that I was watching like his Hyperloop. I didn't even realize it was the Virgin Hyperloop.
Yep, that's Elon. Fucking overpromise, underdeliver, underperform. Still get all the credit.
I don't know if I want to be trapped in that.
Invented by Elon Musk. It's so funny. People think he invented this shit. There's like CNBC articles saying he invented it.
Well, let's see. The first maglev train was introduced in. Holy crap! The patent is from 1907, and the first maglev was in 1915. Was started in 1959 and deployed in looks like in the late 60s. Japan started building them in the late 60s. Germany got one at the end of the 70s. So did Russia. Maglev has been around for quite a while. It's just the really fast ones are all super modern and in Asia, it looks like. This stuff's not even new. This stuff's almost 100 years old. Or it's over, the theory is over 100 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But leave it to a white man to come act like he invented that shit. And not even do it right. Oh my god, it's like Elon invented space travel, fucking tunnels.
He invented tunnels.
Oh my god. Yeah, it's so funny how people still think this dude is smart. I mean, I guess he's smart in that he's got a great publicist.
He's smart enough to buy technology. He's smart enough to buy the right technology, and he's smart enough to rebrand it. Yeah, he's
with himself.
With him, like yeah.
Well, the 2016 articles were so optimistic about his Hyperloop, and then as the Hyperloop starts getting revealed, it's like Hyperloop a letdown. Elon's Hyperloop not as fast as originally planned. Like you see the headlines, like,
and then Huawei's like, we built a Hyperloop, and it's like it's a traditional Chinese bullet train. Like.
Oh my god.
Of course theirs works. They just used a design that actually works. They didn't try to reinvent the wheel, or in this case the maglev train. Oh, this is why we can't have really badass trains, because we have to have some like ringmaster wearing a fancy hat and suit, like holding a flaming fucking ring so a lion can jump through it, so we can believe that it's like awesome.
The first thing that came up when I searched Huawei Hyperloop, Huawei builds new Hyperloop. Elon Musk shocked. He couldn't do it. How could they? How could they figure it out?
Well, obviously, they're like the state-sponsored technology division of China. I mean, they've got all of the resources of China to develop this technology. Plus, they have all of his patents.
Communism?
Communism somehow did this?
So communism beat capitalism to the Hyperloop? That can't be right. There's no way. There's no way. This is the most advanced, most capitalist country in the world. There's no way China beat us to a Hyperloop. No way.
Well, wait. How long ago did China land on the moon? It was like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And they just landed on Mars.
Did they?
Yeah.
Oh shit! I didn't realize that.
So there's like let's say there's a 4-year gap, or let's say there's a 5-year gap between Moon and Mars, and that's pretty significant. They've got some.
I wonder if their rover has like a fucking tort or like a flamethrower on it or some shit, and then we'll have like robot wars on other planets.
Robot wars on Mars. it won't be a torch. It'll have a like a stick welder and a like a saw and a drill. Each on its own armature.
What's that? Space Force?
Yeah, Space Force. The Chinese satellite thing had an arm.
No, I don't think that's the one I'm thinking of. Is it? Was it Tim Heidecker? Moonbase 8, that's the one. Moonbase 8 is the one where they like get into it with the Chinese.
Oh, they get into it with the Chinese in the Space Force too.
And Elon, that's right. Yeah, they get into it with the SpaceX people on there. Moonbase 8 is like, I feel like Space Force and Moonbase 8 were like when comedy really hit its peak, in that it's making social commentary, but it's like the perfect timeliness. And they both did their own things. So it's like, they didn't really copy each other.
They just happened to be.
Yeah. But I feel like Americans also didn't like either one because it was too on point.
I just watched all of the first season of Space Force just the other day, and it was very entertaining. It is very satisfying to watch a little cynicism about our, Space Force. Space Force.
Right. It's like the right amount of cynicism, but then Steve Carell's character is like the right amount of optimism in that. So there's like, you don't walk away feeling jaded. And I think that's what they do really well.
I don't hate any of the characters. You don't hate
the world either.
No,
after.
Yeah.
There's some shit you watch it and you're like, okay, I laughed, but I hate the world now. Like I wasn't trying to, like, I hate the world. I hate America in general. Like I don't need to be reminded America sucks all the time.
Well, they did a good job when they when you find in that moment when they're in the budget oversight committee and everyone gets to leave except for that one general, and now he has to answer questions why he reupholstered some multi-million-dollar jet with ostrich skin, and stuff like that. It's They've got just enough. They've got a good sensibility about it, and they're doing it in a way that made me just. I appreciated the subtleties. The story itself probably needs a little bit of attention for season 2. They can't. I don't think they can rely on Steve Carell so much to keep this kind of bumbling. Organizational hierarchy functional, especially since by the end of the first season he's essentially committed treason. So it'll be interesting to see how they resolve that, right? Because they have to do that within the first 30 seconds. Otherwise, the second season is basically about him being, on trial. They can't do that.
Well, I feel like Hollywood's trying to turn Tawny Newsome into action comedy hero. Oh. So that's where they may try to do that in season 2 and focus more on her.
It's good to be black in space.
Yeah, that shit was hilarious. it's good to be black on the moon.
Yeah, it's gonna be black on the moon. That's right. Like when
Yeah.
they yeah, they definitely did a good job with that last episode.
Then and the fact that Lower Decks did so well, I think they'll probably write her in more as like a more of a focus of the they kind of made her the main she wasn't the main focus, like it was like between Carell's daughter and her they had damn near equal amount of screen time, but I feel like in season 2 she's gonna get more screen time than probably even Steve Carell, just because like you said you can't have that Steve Carell story carry it too much longer without it just being like
No, it'll eat
the
itself.
same shit. It will. It will.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned Lower Decks too, because that's another like a short series that I expect more of, and I'm pretty sure that they've signed up for another 2 seasons.
Oh
of it.
yeah,
That was
and
like,
I think they're even potentially talking about a spinoff with Riker and
and Boimler.
no.
Oh, is it Riker and Troy get their own series?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's actually something we've been waiting for, like basically our entire lives.
But animated, because obviously they're at this point. It could work live action, but they'd be able to do more shit in cartoon. So that's kind of where that's one of the also benefits of the success of Lower Decks. Like I'm glad Lower Decks. Like I didn't know how people would respond to it, but I think it was like well timed, so it was well received.
Yeah. There's another space animation that I've been really enjoying. It's called Final Space, and it's a little crazy. It's like about a multiverse and a madman who wants to destroy everything. It's got quite a few people in it. Like
I started watching that.
David Tennant is the Lord Commander. My absolute favorite character is this little green blob named Mooncakes that says things like Chockety and Chockety Puck, and Keith David is in it. Jane Lynch is in it. It's fantastic. I've really been enjoying it. It's really strange, like, because even though it's a cartoon, it's very much a cartoon, like visually, but story wise, it's heavy. It's like one of the heaviest dramas that I've seen in a while. I'm really, I don't want to spoil it, but because if you're watching it, then
no, I it was like something about it, like it just didn't jive with me. I don't know if you've seen Solar Opposites.
Oh, I've seen Solar Opposites, yeah.
But it felt like a Solar Opposites that wasn't going to make me laugh. So it was like,
oh no, this isn't a story that makes you laugh. Well, parts of it would made me laugh, but this one was actually, I think it's actually much more serious, and it's the kind of thing.
That's why I think I stopped it.
Yeah, it's not a funny haha story. It's like a haha, that person got it good, but then like you have to watch someone die that you don't want to watch them die.
Right,
and they do that
so
to you.
I think I stopped that shit pretty quickly because I'm like, I don't feel like this is escaping anything. This feels like traumatizing myself for no reason. Like,
no, I think it's more.
Pass.
Yeah, I think it's like this is kind of there's an aspect of this story that would pull somebody towards nihilism just by watching it. But
life does that enough.
Yeah, but there's some moments where the characters are expressing like what I would describe as ultimate humanity. And that stuff's kind of cool. So, but I understand that the desire not to watch traumatizing visual imagery. That's I tend to avoid.
Well, I recently rewatched the Fist of the North Star anime, and then because of that, I started watching the like TV series. And I think what ends up happening is there was a period where like you didn't see everything and the gore was implied. And then we started, I don't know if we needed to see it, but gore started being shown, and you see it between the Fist of the North Star TV series and the movie, where they basically just took a bunch of the scenes that did not show the gore and added gore, and that became the like cult classic version. And then people associate the series. Well, I guess the manga was pretty gory, but you know, we people were not ready for like live action or even cartoon gore before like 1984. And something happened, whether it was like anime or I don't know, maybe just horror films becoming more popular, whatever it was, visual gore became more prevalent in that if you go look at the Scarface chainsaw scene, you don't see anything. There's nothing there. And then
Yeah,
you
you just hear
start
it.
getting into right. And it's all visually implied. Whereas then you start getting into like the Nightmare on Elm Street part two. Well, I guess even part one was visually pushing boundaries and then crossing lines that existed to the point where then those lines ceased to exist, and then gore porn became it
I think
like
the Saw series really pushed gore
yeah,
like into the
exactly. That's when gore
mainstream.
porn became its own thing. And I think what ended up really becoming a problem is that because a lot of horror became gore porn, horror and gore porn became synonymous for like 5 years until people were like, I don't need to see everything for it to be scary. Like, you can do jump scares without then showing me somebody's arm get cut off. So it was there was this weird period where horror was just all gore porn. And then people I think got desensitized to it, but I don't know if we ever came out of that in that
So
it's like The Ring even. Like it's not gore porn,
no, The Ring's
but
not
they
very
show
gory. It's
no, but they show way more
it's
stuff than they need to.
yeah, it's really it's mostly suspense.
Yeah.
So I think I watched up to the third Saw movie before I just kind of lost interest in the entire thing, and then I remember the next like slasher movie that I would watch was actually a Broken Lizard movie. You know, the guys that do Beer Fest and Super Troopers and all that stuff. They made one called Club Dread, and I just decided to hit play, and I found myself laughing more than being shocked or jumping or any of that stuff. It was just kind of like, oh, this is amusing. This is what happens when a bunch of comedians make a slasher gore movie, because you know they would cut people open and their guts would be coming out, or but then they at one point somebody's like jumping into their cliff diving and then water shoots up their asshole and they complain about it. And then they've got like impossible, like people cut in half but still alive, because they're having fun. So that was the first technical horror movie that I'd really watched after the Saw movies and actually enjoyed. And then well, there's one, it's like the house in the woods. It's like a Cthulhu movie.
Cabin
The Cabin? Is it The Cabin?
or Dream Catchers?
No. Oh, here it is. Yeah, The Cabin in the Woods. And that's like that movie
was
is,
the cabin. Yeah,
that movie is like really gory and it has a lot of blood, but it's also this like weirdly complex, like these people are inside of a puzzle box type movie. And so it kind of dissociates you from what's going on once you realize that you're watching what's going on from the perspective for the people that are operating the machine. And also because none of the characters have demonstrated any like redeeming qualities that make us like feel like, oh no, this person just died. I don't care about any of these characters. I'm actually more interested in the people that are pulling the levers and pressing the buttons behind the scenes at this point. But even that movie is like still like, you know, that movie's really bloody. I don't think that that's actually necessary. You know, at one point I made a comment about how I didn't think that the Marvel movies were that brutal, and you pointed out that it's probably because there wasn't any blood. Like you were like, go rewatch that fight scene, you'll see. And I did, and it was like, holy crap, these guys are breaking each other into pieces, but they're not bleeding anywhere.
Yep.
And the only people that bleed in that movie are either dying or they're the bad guys. So
Well, and then like, I don't know if you saw Falcon and Winter Soldier, but then when they do finally show blood during a death scene, it's fucking gory as shit. It was like they didn't even they didn't show the impact, but they showed the splatter.
yeah.
And that's where it's like, good God, this is a Disney property.
Well, the same thing in Infinity War when that giant spinning death wheel, you know, circular saw blades were rolling around Wakanda, and Scarlet Witch tosses the one, you know, the baddie chick.
Blue, but it was blue blood.
Yeah, it was like blue, purplish, lavender blood, and it was like it had the viscosity of shampoo, like they dumped a bucket of shampoo, and you saw that, but the thing ground that character up so quickly you didn't actually see anything, but there was a lot of blood of some kind of lavender shampoo. I bet that's what they use. I bet they use some kind of liquid soap. There's no need to make some special purple shit if you got the right kind of stuff already, right? An Alien, they have soap for blood anyways.
Yeah, let's find the right one.
But they
well, maybe conditioner so it doesn't foam.
Wait, no, they're aliens. They can have blood that foams.
That's true.
Why
That's
not?
True.
We can have foaming blood.
Make it even easier to look like acid.
Yeah, foaming blood that cleans up oil. That's messed up.
Oh man.
It's like, oh man, my hands are dirty. Hold on, cut my arm so I can clean my hands. like
Oh, Loki comes out soon. That's what, 3 days.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that because from what little I've seen, it looks like they're gonna take Loki down the redemption storyline, and he's gonna fight it, but he's eventually gonna acquiesce and go along with the redemption storyline, and they're gonna reveal all of his powers to us this time because they'll actually have time to develop the reasons why he would even use them.
Well, and I think there's a few things that I believe they're going to address with this show is that, number one, Loki is always meant to be redeemed. And number two, in order to be redeemed, you have to have done some unredeemable shit.
Yeah.
Or borderline irredeemable shit. And that's kind of where that I think we're going to be exploring the gamut of atrocities committed by Loki, but then also how he redeemed his or herself over all these different multiverses, mainly because in every one, he or she is probably a dejected bastard child no, it's not even bastard. It's like
He was a kidnapped foster child.
Kidnapped foster, yeah. So
it's like
having that be the origin is obviously going to cause a lot of problems in every universe or in every multiverse.
yeah. That's interesting. No, when you just reminded me of the article you sent me last year around this time, I think, and it was talking about how foster care programs and policies essentially destroy black communities because they would not place black children with their family members, and where it was more common for white children to be placed with family members.
Happen to natives too.
Yeah, happened to natives too, and so in a sense, like that's what happened. That's what happens to him. So in a sense, we get to address the complexity of the human condition that is has its heritage severed.
Yeah. I know a lot of motherfuckers were like, I just realized why I identify with Loki now. But yeah, but I think that's also why in all of his atrocities, people are so quick to redeem him because it's easy to identify with somebody in his situation. So then you're like, yeah, you know what? I see why you lashed out. I'm not saying I condone it, but I get it.
Yeah.
Which is why he ends up with his own series. So
Loki's like one of the most interesting characters in MCU thus far. He's like easily the most interesting, nuanced character, just in that he does what he wants when he wants. He doesn't really have reservations about anything, but every time it's been really important that he does the right thing, he somehow does the right thing. I guess in like Avengers, he never accomplished that because he was still trying to take over the world, and he got waylaid by the Hulk in the most fantastic of ways. That was actually one of the most brutal things that I think I've seen in that entire series, was when Hulk grabs him by the ankles and just swings him around like a rag doll. Also, when it happens to Thor, and then Loki's like, "That's how it feels." It's stuff like that that makes me really enjoy his character. I think it's important that we have like that it's we have examples of people who are like, yeah, take that, like, and it's okay. Sometimes it's okay to experience Schadenfreude. It's part of being human, just like being neurotic and like losing your shit every so often when you can't find your wallet and your keys because they're in a pair of pants that you put in the wash and fortunately haven't pressed wash on.
Yeah, that's a universal experience, right?
Yeah. It's like the worst feeling, but everyone experiences it. It's okay. It's okay. We can all go through these things. We can all come out better people.
Yeah. Well, at least now there's a find my phone function, which I definitely have used that plenty of times.
Yeah.
Wish there was a find the remote function. And it's like, yeah, I know there's those tags that you can put on shit, but nobody wants to do that, which is why none of us have done it. So everybody listening to this has the chance, but none of us have done it because that shit is tedious.
They're already hacked. They've already been hacked. All the Apple tags, they've already been hacked.
Oh, I wasn't talking about the Apple ones. There's like those tags have been around.
The Android,
Apple went and made their own.
I know, but like the Apple tags have been hacked. That's all that matters. Once the Apple tags are hacked, that means that whole market's going to be like, fuck this shit. Or maybe they won't. Maybe they want the hacked tags for some dumb reason.
I mean, nobody wants the tags in the first place because they're too tedious. That shit has been around for decades, at least.
Like, I watched a DIY video. I didn't watch it. I like turned it up to full speed and then skipped around because it was taking too long. But somebody just determined that there was like one location where you could drill a hole into it, so you could fit a ring and attach it to a keychain, but it voids the warranty because you cracked the case. And so it's like, well, you can have this thing and actually track your keys with it, or spend another like $29.99 or whatever to get the key chain adapter ring.
A keychain adapter. Of course, they do some dumb shit like that. God damn it. God damn it, Apple. This is why I don't buy this shit.
But
because they sell you a phone and then don't give you a headphone jack.
Make you buy an extra adapter to wear out the one port that exists, like even faster. Yeah. So, but yeah, like once that's hacked, that market is like basically compromised. Oh, your keys are here. Your keys are here. Meanwhile, I know where your keys are. Yeah. Sometimes when I see technology like that, I wonder what problem are they looking for to solve, because I'm not sure what that actually resolves. If I want one of those like whistling key things, you know, that's been around since like probably the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that there's a smart version where you can program it to respond to like a really specific command. Oh, that's actually a good idea though. But you're right, that is pretty tedious. You have to program it to your voice over a range so that it can like identify you and not just some random noise that happens to be almost identical.
Yeah, there's some stuff where it's like it does make our lives easier, but then there's a lot of shit that is presented to make our lives easier, but it's more tedious to add it in. And then that's where, that's why nobody's adding those tags on our shit. And why we're all perpetually looking for our fucking keys at least one time a week. It's easier to do that than to put a fucking tag on our keychain. It's just not worth it to put the tag on, apparently.
It's funny. I was just thinking about it. Like, I try to put my keys and wallet in the same place. Like every time. And I thought about it. Like, you're right. There was that one time earlier this week when I put them in the other room for like 30 seconds, and then I couldn't find them for like 20 minutes.
I have a straight up designated spot.
Yeah. I've got a special location on a shelf just for my keys and wallet. I've got a hanger for the keys, like when I'm being really deliberate. But it's true. Like
sometimes you get absent-minded and just move shit. We don't know why.
For some reason, I thought I needed my keys in the other room. Oh, that's the best. I do like modern cars, how the key is wireless and you just got to be close enough to press a button and unlock a door or start the car. The fob just has to be in the vehicle or next to the vehicle. I do like that. And I fully expect at some point there's going to be like some variation of CarPlay or Google Car or whatever, Android Car, where you can like, it'll know that you're in the vehicle because your phone is on and connected to the car's wireless network. And that way you won't even have to have keys. You just have to have your phone. You might have to unlock it on your phone, but I can see that happening, and I can see that being adopted. More and more cars, new vehicles that I've seen have like the Android Auto or Apple CarPlay built in already. And that stuff's all right. Like, I think that's cool that you can have your map or your phone book or whatever, your address book, like from your phone display on a screen in front of you, or directly access YouTube or your streaming whatever of choice. I think that's cool. I guess it's just one less screen. But sometimes it kind of bothers me. It's like, I don't actually want my phone there. I don't want my phone to do anything other than like answer phone calls or make phone calls. I guess they just don't go
Yeah, I
anywhere.
guess it just depends on what you need it for.
Yeah. And does it actually make my life better? Or is it just something else I have to sign into? Like 5 times. Because you got to sign into everything like a fucking bajillion times now. And I keep reading about how like password managers are keep getting, you know, lists keep getting released and change your password because this might be compromised or some shit. And it's like, how can a password management company screw up managing passwords? Like, that's like the
you had one job.
They had one fucking job. Like when an entire database is compromised just for one line. They only want one table even. And within that table, they only want one row of information. Like, they got to get the entire database, though. It's a lot of effort. Like that one line contains the key to some wallet that has an untold volume of Bitcoins. They just need to filter through 40 gigabytes of 3-dimensional tables.
Man, even 2FA has been hacked recently. I had a friend whose Coinbase account got drained, and they ended up draining his bank account that was associated with it.
Oh, shit.
Through his Coinbase account. And withdrawing that shit, even though he had 2-factor authentication on. So that's why I'm like, I'd seen 2FA hacked before, but the attacks are getting more and more complex to the point where,
wow, they like intercepted the second authentication like in mid network somewhere. That's impressive.
Yeah,
that's really impressive.
Or they were in the back end of Coinbase.
Yeah.
Which is where, it's impossible to tell without Coinbase letting the information be transparent. If they could even tell, which is not necessarily even the case, but knowing how it happened and seeing that other people got hacked, I suspect that somebody's got in the back of Coinbase.
Yeah. Man, that's just terrible. That's not confidence inspiring. No situation where that happens is confidence inspiring. Like there's nothing about that makes me feel like my wallet is and that Coinbase is secure at that point.
No. I definitely don't keep anything in there more than what I'm going to transfer to PayPal at any given time. But obviously, you shouldn't keep everything in the same place anyway.
Yeah, it can be transferred to a private wallet, or a hardware wallet. Something it can be taken out. It can be placed somewhere else that doesn't exist until you need it. Like, good luck proving that some random string of characters that represents a wallet that contains Ethereum on the internet belongs to me.
Right.
I can't even prove that it belongs to me, except for I have this string of characters that opens it. Yeah, that's another thing. I guess I liked when cryptocurrency was less. I don't want to say less volatile, but like less. Like the memes were somewhat self-contained, and now the memes have essentially gotten out of the hands of the people and into the hands of this like the gambling crowd, and so they've like I still read people's advice to hodl, and I ask myself, wait, are they using it like in good faith, like as an actual term, or do they not realize that it was like a spelling error that turned into a joke, and that it's not actually advice? It was like, like
Yeah, I wonder how many people actually ever figure that part out.
I mean, it was completely visible in a forum to be read for a while. I can't find it anymore because it's too old. But it's one of those things like I don't think anyone's keeping an active or accurate or curated history of the culture of cryptocurrency, and so it's like every time there's some big boom, it's almost like the culture has to relearn everything every time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like collective memory sucks or something.
Yep. Well, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Not in crypto. Well, and it's like it barely exists in America. Um, I feel like it exists in other countries more, but we have a whole name for the lack of a collective memory in the Mandela effect. You know, like the fact that people don't try to have a collective memory results in the Mandela effect, basically. Like everyone misremembers things correct, like wrong together.
The same way.
It's like the craziest shit. Yeah, because they're racist. They're low-key racist, and then they have these like tendencies where they like conflate things and
I'm gonna start calling it the Mancala effect. Mancala is a game for those that are unaware. It's played with stones, and it's like I think it's like an ancient Egyptian game. Yeah, the Mancala effect. The Mancala effect and Hakeem's scimitar. I'm going to add that to the lexicon. You know, what's interesting is that I still see videos where people try to explain Mandela effect, and it always turns into like the weirdest conspiracy stuff. It's like it can't escape conspiracy.
Yeah, because it makes no fucking sense.
Yeah. It just doesn't. None of it does. They've made movies about it. Like,
right, yeah.
trying to leverage Mandela effect as a mechanism for a story.
Mm-hmm.
And even that stuff is so preposterous that it kind of falls apart pretty quickly.
Yeah, I saw an ad for one not too long ago. I think on Amazon Prime or something. It's like,
I think movies that have to rely on something that's already mind bendy, that have to rely on something like this as the mechanism, that right there means that the story is because of that, whereas a really good mind bending story is just mind bending because of the story, not because of the mechanism. The mechanism emerges from the storytelling. But Mandela effect as a story mechanism also, I feel like that's tough because you have to convince the audience to suspend enough disbelief to accept that this thing that they probably know that isn't true, and definitely know isn't true, is true.
suspension of disbelief is hard on its own, let alone when you start adding in ridiculous premises. And that's where, I'll watch movies just for fun, but in the process, it's not like hate watching, but it's like what were these people thinking when they made this? Like what, like besides the obvious cocaine, like what drove the decision to do this in this film or whatever? And that's kind of like, yeah, that's how I end up watching a lot of older stuff more than it's like really hard to suspend disbelief in older stuff now.
Yeah.
Because the writing is just so unrealistic.
Well, except for satire. Satire is always over the top.
Right,
I think that's like the only place that I can really enjoy like that kind of suspension of disbelief. Because like with science fiction, I know that like all of it except for the part that the characters are breathing oxygen as a requirement for being human is like the only thing that's actually real in most science fiction.
Right.
But with a good satire, they're generally like set in some kind of contemporary society where everything is still. I mean, obviously they become dated really quickly because of clothing style or available technology or whatever. But there's something about that where, yeah, I can believe that, you know, bumbling idiot here somehow manages to end up with a suitcase that has some really important document and they're smart enough to recognize they've got to get it somewhere else, and then series of unfortunate miscalculations and events until they get to their destination and then get rewarded with, you know, getting thrown in jail, so they have to break out and then prove their innocence. I can accept that. That's like a wild screwball comedy. And I can have fun with that. But then, like, when I watch a lot of, you know, even Space Force, there's a part of it that's just like, this is way too clean. This has way too much budget.
Mm-hmm.
They're not behaving like this. No general in the Space Force is going to behave like Steve Carell's character. They're all really serious dudes.
Well, what's funny is my friend who served in the Marines was like saying how accurate his portrayal was.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Like, he must have shadowed somebody. And he's like, that he said he reminded him of
something specifically.
Like, people he had encountered in his service. So that's where, like,
oh, that's even more amusing then.
Yeah. When I heard that, because we talked about it in the sense of like, oh, this is a funny show. And he was saying how I remember him saying that specifically because like it was a different, like the way he did the role, it was definitely over the top. But apparently the over the top stuff is like how a person would probably act if they were that person. Like the way he would like lay in bed and couldn't, what was it? He would like turn the lights off a few times or something, or there was some weird shit he did where you're like, okay, I could totally see a fucking general doing some random shit like this.
No, they lock themselves in a room and sing Beach Boys songs.
Or he like clicked the lock a few times or something.
Oh yeah,
I forget exactly what it was.
Like some like heavy OCD type stuff.
Yeah, but it wasn't like, it wasn't OCD. It was more like, oh, this person is like military trained and they can't let it go at any point. Like they can't let it go when they're preparing for bed, or like brushing their teeth or something.
He's always in military mode.
Exactly. That's what the way he was doing the overtop stuff to portray the character.
Yeah.
And I think if you've never met anybody like that, it's going to be like, oh, there's nobody like this. But apparently that's like exactly how some of them are.
That's funny. No, you know, I remember when I was a Boy Scout, there were people that were always Boy Scouts, like outside of scout troop meetings.
Cops are like that, man. Cops can't turn this shit off.
They can't turn it off. I wonder.
I bet most of them.
I bet there are doctors who can't turn it off either.
Mm-hmm.
Doctors and like paramedics, especially. I bet paramedics and nurses are like spring loaded to go into action.
Yeah.
If only our school security guards were spring loaded to go into action, and not to run out the front door.
Yeah, that's crazy how that dude ended up
They
being the
gave him his
like
job back.
what?
Yeah, that motherfucker got his job back, and then I think they even gave him
Wow.
back pay for like the time that he should have been working.
Like, man, don't sign up for shit you're not prepared to do.
I don't think anyone's really prepared for that. Like, I think that's the kind of, my suspicion is the person that signs up for that kind of job, or did in the past before there was before it became a visible public issue and health concern. I think that people signed up for that because they could get away with like enforcing rules just by like being present. That
Yep.
kids, for the most part, would see them and be like, "Oh man, I don't want to do anything,"
Exactly right.
and that's it. No, they just had to be there. But now,
They didn't actually want to be security.
yeah,
They just wanted to be authority.
yeah, but authority without. Nah, they still wanted to be the cudgel. They still wanted to be able to grab someone by the
I mean, they
collar.
wanted to be the punishment,
Yeah,
but they didn't want to be the security enforcement, which
Yeah.
means protecting people and making sure that they are all safe. That's
that's the deep
to
flaw.
them. Yeah, they think, oh, if I get to punish people, that's them being safe with my punishment. But when it comes time to actually protect them from the nefarious actor, then they fucking cower. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them.
At least one example, the dude ran out the front and waited until law enforcement showed up and started to handle it. And that guy got suspended from his job for a while. And then he got his job back and he got back pay. I just remember that. And that was a really big school shooting that everyone freaked the fuck out about and started and like ignited a whole different fire camp under the national regulation debate. Like that's how serious that shit is. Like just let kids go to school at home. Figure out a way to do it. figure out the social infrastructure that's necessary to ensure that a kid gets through school and can do so from home.
Yep.
There's a way.
Well, and the crazy part is, if the kid is attending classes all day, even if they're at home, technically they're gonna have supervision.
Yeah, they're completely supervised because there's a camera on them the whole time.
Right. Yeah, which is like, you know, obviously if the kid's like, oh, I'm going to turn off my camera and then
It's like,
just
no,
try
dog.
to automate it. But the parent would obviously have to, you know, approve the camera being on. But that's why they would want to approve it to them. Be like, yeah, guess what? I can go to work because my kid's going to be on camera all day having an adult like teaching them. But then they don't have to drive to school. So I don't have to worry about them in transport.
Yeah.
As soon as the classes are done, they're in the living room, ready to fucking eat breakfast or lunch or whatever, eat their after school snack. You don't have to worry about what happens if they get bullied on the bus ride.
I'm pretty
home
sure the
or some
Arizona public school system figured out a way to provide meals to elementary school, middle school students. I think even high school students. They managed to provide anyway. They provided lunches to the community school kids through pandemic. Like they were able to deliver this stuff.
Yeah, you could easily have a delivery
And they
mechanism.
they used less than they were budgeted, I believe. Like because they didn't have to. They were operating a different type of operation essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Probably like a delivery service.
yeah.
And these things are districts anyway, so the kids are going to be living near each other. So if you have somebody going around delivering lunches, they're not driving all over the state. They're driving in a township or
They're driving, they're parking their car, and then they're walking up and down a couple blocks.
right. Yep.
Or they like, you know, they can figure that stuff out. I think it's actually be pretty easy. There's like a special menu where if a student has to go to the bathroom, they press the button, and then they know they have a certain amount of time where the computer's not waiting for their face to be in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get back, they check back in, and that's, lo and behold, now you've taught kids how to check in for work. Holy crap, that's like super early, but Like I think that like when I was a kid, I think there was like this kind of tension. Like people didn't want to ask for a pass to go to the bathroom because it put them in the spotlight on them.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone doesn't have to make a big scene about it, it's like, hey, I'm using the can. I'll be right back.
Right.
And the lessons are also already being recorded and can be accessed later. Like if they actually need to review the lesson because they missed something during the lesson, they can just go back and rewind or download the class that they missed 5 minutes of to go pee.
Right. Anything that gives people more autonomy over their being, so they don't have to request permission to use the restroom.
Yeah.
That was always one of the weirdest parts about school. Like, you mean to tell me if I have to piss, I might get rejected and denied?
Yeah.
Like, what kind of
place
world
is
is this?
And then now you read about like some moms or some parents suing a school district because their kid had to hold their bladder and it caused them discomfort. Like,
Right.
to live in a world where you can pee freely.
Not too much to ask.
Exceptional Radio.
Exceptional Randos Show is produced live in Sunroom Studios' Base Capsule and in partnership with KLST 103.5, RadioCallisti.org. Remember to catch our Exceptional Randos live stream on YouTube every Sunday between 2 and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you have a story, idea, or question that you would like to share, we want to hear from you. Thanks for listening.
Well, that was random. Exceptional Radio.